Hey everyone, my name is Rachel Jackson, and I decided to do my presentation on the comparisons of religious hypocrisy of Tartuffe and Candide. It takes place in the Age of Enlightenment that began in the late 17th century. It was a great time of turmoil that began the French Revolution. The Enlightenment intellectuals were the ones who supported and suggested that we depend on the trust of our senses for judgment along with the acts that we make. Many Enlightenment thinkers, such as Molière and Voltaire, were renowned for their works. They were two writers that used a very distinct style to their pieces. Tartuffe by Molière and Candide by Voltaire both adopted similar subjects and ideas such as satire, for example. Tartuffe and Candide satirize religious hypocrisy, highlighting on free thinking and reason. Jean-Baptiste Molière was known as one of the greatest and notable comic writers, primarily because his pieces define the idiocy of trusting reason for different life experiences. Molière was born in Paris on the 15th of January in 1622. One of Molière's most famous works involves Tartuffe. Written and performed during the reign of King Louis of France in 1664, mainly for the controversy it triggered associated to satire. Tartuffe is a play that talks about a man named Orgon, who is a wealthy family man, who takes a guest into his home named Tartuffe. Orgon later realized Tartuffe was a religious hypocrite. He doesn't have any morals or religious values. Tartuffe merely used religion as a mask to manipulate people and to do his wrongdoings. He puts on an act to come across extremely religious. But from his behaviors and actions, it goes completely against the ethics of religion. For instance, when Tartuffe sees Doreen in Act 3, Scene 2, he tells her, "Cover your bust. The flesh is weak. Souls are forever damaged by such sights." When sinful thoughts begin their evil flights. After this scene, there is obvious proof displaying Tartuffe as a hypocrite. Here, he speaks about the significance of chastity. However, in the events that follows, he goes against his declaration when he tries to pursue Elmire. Tartuffe tries to coax Elmire to cheat on Orgon, but she figures out a strategy to uncover Tartuffe's true nature to Orgon, as well as to show him how Tartuffe was attempting to woo her. As an outcome of this ploy, Orgon observes firsthand that Tartuffe is a religious hypocrite. The way that Molière exhibits Tartuffe's actions when accessing the two scenes permits the audience to presume the way Tartuffe acts doesn't at all correspond with his remarks. The two separate behaviors demonstrated in the two scenes is intended to satirize the religious hypocrisy combined into Tartuffe. The main theme of Tartuffe is religious control exhibited through Cleante. He shows real pious honesty throughout the play by conveyed concepts and beliefs differed to religious hypocrisy represented in Tartuffe. Religious moderation is communicated by Cleante's voice through his speeches. So nothing is more odious to me than the display of suspicious piety, which I see in every charlatan who tries to pass for a true holy man. A religious passion, worn as a facade, abuses what's sacred and mocks God. They don't exhibit zeal that's more intense than heaven shows us in its own defense. They never claim a knowledge that's divine, and yet they live in virtue's own design. They concentrate their hatred on the sin, and when the sinner grieves, invite him in. Molaire 24:25. This speech by Cleante in Act 1, Scene 5 is suggested by a firmly structured argument to emphasize on Molaire's belief and support for religious moderation. Molaire uses Cleante's speech to compare between the people that are actual pious against those individuals who are only pretending to be pious, like Tartuffe. Those who pretend to be pious do more talking and preaching versus showing action to back up their words. The extremely holy people who follow God, as well as use action more opposed to teaching. I think by Molaire using these statements in his play through Cleante, he is sending a message to his audience to exhibit religious moderation by being like Cleante. Francois Marie Arouet, well known by his pen name Voltaire, was an opinionated and courageous writer. He was born in Paris, France on November 21st of 1694. He was a versatile and prolific writer during his time. Many of Voltaire's style of works and romance usually were created as pamphlets and were written as speeches. Voltaire produced well over hundreds of literary works that included plays, poems, novels, essays, histories, and scientific explanations. Candide was a renowned piece that showed submissiveness encouraged by Leibniz's philosophy of optimism through the character Pangloss. Pangloss's common refrain that situations are the best of all possible worlds. Voltaire's ironic style, free of embellishment, is evident, particularly the control and minimalism of the verbal treatment. Candide is the greatest example of his style. Unlike Tartuffe, where religious hypocrisy is symbolized by one character, Voltaire criticizes religious hypocrisy through pious communities. Similar to Molaire, Voltaire satirizes religious moderation as well. In Candide, Voltaire uses the character Pangloss to mock his view on religious moderation. Voltaire believed humans should depend on their reason and senses to make decisions and understand the world. Throughout the novel, Pangloss has an optimistic view of how he sees the world. He thinks that God made the best possible world that we can live in and that all that occur is necessary. Candide recalls his guide's philosophy. It is clear, he said, that things cannot be otherwise than they are. For since everything is made to serve an end, everything necessary serves the best end. Voltaire 101. Pangloss's philosophy inspires and encourages people should trust and follow their religious devotion blindly. Voltaire satirizes these senses. This sense he has a separate belief. As demonstrated by Candid's adversities throughout the novel, his mentor's optimistic view in philosophy proved to be inaccurate, such as with the drowning of Jacques the Anabaptist. After this tragedy and all the other awful encounters, leads Candid to doubt Pangloss's philosophy about whether his unfortunate experiences are part of the best of all worlds. In conclusion, Molière and Voltaire successfully satirized their outlook on religious hypocrisy and moderation in Tartuffe and Candide. With each of their pieces, they expected to get a lesson across to humanity that would catch interest, as both did with this intent of controversy their works produced. Even though their pieces were composed many centuries ago, it provided as a base for satirical writers in the contemporary era. The world as we know it today is still overflowing with negative facets of religion. The messages Molière and Voltaire conveyed are still valuable in this day and possibly needs to be focused more on the current age than it was when their works were published.